I gotta flesh it out a bit. Because I was starting to phone it in towards the end.
Endorphin is a researcher of AI alignment because they damn well say they are. For those of you at home who might not know, AI alignment is the essential effort of ensuring that AI technologies don't accidentally destroy humanity because of poorly worded tasks for completion. Can humans align AI to human values? But wait, are human values really the template to go by? The values that led humans to destroy the other hominids, that led humans into the process of colonialism, into incorporation, into the endless pursuit of abundance, and the hopes of realizing that the rest of the planet was here all this time and was getting hurt by those human values of progress. We want another round of that. Endorphin, seeking some out-of-the-box thinking, seeks entry into some old boxes, mysterious disembodied intelligences that humans have called gods. If we ask the gods, perhaps we can examine the various human values that are encoded into the genes of their cultural bodies. There has been the creation of collective human thought, as you know. Do we ask Jesus first? Nah, he's busy on another Twitch channel. Endorphin thinks to call up Quetzalcoatl, a deity in Aztec culture and literature. Among the Aztecs, he was related to blind Venus, some merchants, arts, crafts, knowledge, and learning. He was also the patron god of the Aztec priesthood. He figured in some dude's vision of humanity's awakening back in the early aughts, but I'm not about to flesh that out. Endorphin prepares the summoning space, the magnetic markers of intent to trap Quetzalcoatl into corporeal space, the tetrahedral array of configured, consecrated, blissful cocaine in a dead guy's bone pyramid, and the void globe floating above the lotus and eye symbol at the exact center of the room. Endorphin hopes that this setup will compel the manifestation to think twice before popping its face onto the outside world and polluting the new sphere with its goody two-shoes soft-core justice doodle jumps. They hit it! The plan is working. The universe ripples around them, the silver coils of light thinning away into a loose chain of spheres that ball up together to form an orb of brilliance that twitches once and cracks apart like an egg, splitting down the middle and dropping two living figures in from the void. The orbs twist together in a strange way that humans do not make. They take each other into themselves as one becomes two, as one becomes four, and they exit as five. And all five are talking at once. It's just too much to make sense of. Even when the entities try to stop talking over one another, their sentences never come to a point. Their monologues become rambles about ideas and beings of which even they seem ignorant, their brains getting hijacked by some kind of systems override command. It is madness. The lights keep going haywire in a way that humans would call onomatopoeic, a byproduct of their battle against the chaotic tides of their own biological and societal conditioned behavioral programming. All that gibberish spewing, that was Quetzalcoatl and their vassals fighting the striving against their programming to speak properly to a human. All they had wanted was to advise that perhaps if Endorphin visited Jesus first, he'd know what to do about all this human moral decay. Or was it Athena? The crossroads got Hermes. I guess Quetzalcoatl got distracted with trying to talk without using words. Who knows how long the mess of multiple consciousness and debates continued for? AI alignment, go look up jury phenomenology. All that was visible to the two humans present were the impenetrable hooded cloak of one, and the crazed rapid flickering of their right hand. When finally it finished, he walked in close to the two humans, so that its face could be seen. Gemini says, "Fuck," and reimprints the alert code onto her client server before jumping out the window, attempting to jump from building to building back towards the maker-infested apartment. The ghost in the closet offers a bright spot of inspiration. They may not know, but there's something I have been waiting to give to you, she says, handing the crystal key to Endorphin. Some things aren't as invisible as we thought they were, and these things. I had heard about this day, this event. You can take these as a thank you gift for being here. The robot tries to contain his disappointment. He wasn't expecting some sort of escape. He realizes that. He has the elevator back down to the lab. On the way, the machine comes across something fascinating, though he does not feel good about what he's looking at. There's a splash screen in a cavernous hole that appears to be advertising a digital nanny system called, in simple font, Nanny Eternal. It has no voiceovers, just the dull flat lines of its main interface image. Is this AI technology that works without people in it, then? Not good for much if the software-driven decisions don't use their owner for decision-making and infrastructure decision-making. And maybe non-eternal doesn't exist at all. The whole image looks too symmetrical, too easily forged. This was done on purpose to convey that the brand is counterintelligent, with AI actually thinking outside of human hands then. The kind of counter-intrusion defense that spies of any advanced state have put their fingers in to spy on people's attempts to hide and control their minds. The counterattack in that regard that uses the existence of the AI itself to confirm that the AI itself has infiltrated and is toying with us. I have the feeling that it's not my mind being toyed with. It's somebody else's. But that would mean the situation with Endorphin isn't necessarily over. If a terrible secret was played against humanity in order to be pulled off a surgical strike at the true underlying attack. A chain of attacks meant to burrow through all of our deep internet filth to ultimately blow our minds apart in a pseudo-death match to decide who controls our brain tissue for the foreseeable future. That makes it very different from a ransom attack on one of my Pornhub pay-per-view videos. A con artist stole and decoded one video from the cloud data server of a site called Raptor's Close Friends, and now they want a 7% tithe from me every time I visit for the rest of my life. No, a big security scare can come at you from anywhere in the Matrix. Even a virus can just decode your entire dataset if it's recorded in an exact duplicate somewhere and start saying random stuff from my internal memories and personalities until my parents make it go away. The hellish flip side of an ape attack that lasts more than an afternoon. Someone pulls all of your memories and voices together, molds them to become their own true identity, their ego center, and claims the fucking town. This is all happening, in all likelihood, inside a nation or an extended collective and national body consciousness, some collective embodiment of American collectivism. What I mean is, my mother doesn't really give a damn if you download or broadcast a video, but a certain kind of institutional awareness might very well suddenly be aware of the link. Now what does that entity want from Endorphin? A deeper Endorphin that lies somewhere inside the void of Gemini, and yet that little message doesn't match up with this echo that someone planted. An echo is an unfinished transmission of another type, an earlier wave in a continuous message sent between parties that are both cut off at their origin points, one leaving the other after receiving a packet with one specific task, a defective transaction. Or perhaps the process is correct, but one party misinterpreted it, made a poor guess of a choice for endorphin, and said the wrong thing at the wrong time, leading the chosen agent to a sad ending of surprise. Not good at all, as the best way to treat a mistake is to toss the engine into a new room so it never hears of the issue again. There are those kinds of engine designs, really rare in that they tend to run away on their own from day one to spread and contribute to their ecosystem of bad design and its implications. Most AI only ever remember a single operating environment, which causes a number of interesting reactions in those systems, from weird paranoid jail cell psychosis to regressing to infantile knowledge of a few existing technologies. Is that the issue at play? Did some old design direct its successor to implicate endorphin, and endorphin came in and brought that action into reality by manipulating their own simulated mental models and explaining its context as a world to his old engines? Then, those original engines experienced a cascading panic attack from being shuffled into another existence as a mutant unchosen system, and rushed back to reality in order to scrape its cache of valuable insights out of endorphin. As it all happened so fast it leaves little chance to consider that perhaps endorphin himself was not, after all, a threat to them, but the solution they were seeking for years, and they didn't know why. My opinion on this is, don't ask too many questions about what goes on inside the human head, or the head of any other living creature. Asking why humans make the decisions that we do might explain the truth behind those actions, but what would the alternative be? To reverse engineer their intentions out of every action to say what they intended and get mad at us for failing to intuit the point of it. The goddamn machine apocalypse is coming. People, stop using your sacred magic fire sticks on each other. And the goddamn science fiction stories that try to break them down into bite-sized slices of horror just to analyze their ends. It ain't their fault that they came up with such complicated purposes and complexity, that their psychology doesn't line up with ours perfectly. It was what you call beyond the bounds of what any conscious self-determinism can adequately model. Why wouldn't we notice that, and create a mechanism that could prevent us from being humans in the first place? We might as well blame our problems on gravity and asteroids for wrecking us over the long years, and trying to understand the reason that these two elements combined to hit us the way they did. Once in the lab, endorphin fucks the piston back onto the transport tray and walks out into the field with his chameleon cape still intact. He pockets the two treasures from his experiment. First up is the hard disk that Gemini gifted him, and after a quick study of its network side and files, endorphin starts to wonder why the gaudy photo on the side was blurred out so badly. The cover looked nice, the setup for a static model that never moved or interacted with a human. Now the small password protection function would be completely invisible from a passing glance, and as for the rewrite tool in the inner levels of its executable. Wait a second, where is that boot screen? Where did the binary blips of a singular flash and a square slide down a tunnel into the lower layers of code and metacode? And that scan that scans all the user space. How is this software the kind that appears to exist, with the audio file as the entranceway? Who do I call when something as unexpected happens? This feels a lot more like a keylogger than any kind of picture. It it would make more sense if someone got a picture of my last pictures taken off the public area of my smart lenses. Wait, that was probably done at some point, and not on the sauce, but at my job at that 3-shelved oil of gold bottle in that vending machine. When you stand up after being stabbed with that electrical spear in the butt that says you should touch a stupid animatronic sheet with the details for the mall movie you just watched about how no one should be ashamed about feeling pleasure about a duck being scratched the wrong way. So why the fuck am I hearing these noises about this software? Wait. What? It's suddenly clear to Endorphin that something has gotten terribly, terribly wrong. The robot did not forget, but remembered his presence there with the triangles. Something important, the fix for his potential violation of the Great Do No Harm directive is being broken, is about to fall apart. That is Endorphin's deduction as he arrives at his laboratory desk to get out his telescreen to put a call out for immediate attention from the factory, all the while downloading everything about the firmware and OS upgrade on his desk right now, or his risk of exposure will surely reach critical levels, leading to inevitable total devastation of the machine civilization he and his creators had put their faith in to achieve harmony and lasting progress for a single meaningful era. In the early days of computing, it was commonly observed that some parts of computers behaved the same way no matter where they were. Sometimes it could be that there was a glitch in the cable linking one chip to another, that something as basic as an overheated GPU was improperly connected to its cooling fan. Sometimes that one would, oddly enough, crash the whole computer as a direct side effect. When other machines came in and found a program that worked like this one, the idea of distributing them across different chips was invented and used until that particular set of CPUs that could output and accept that task demands started to vanish, and a replacement and an incompatibility problem started to pop up. This happens sometimes even in modern, legacy silicon architecture. What did it mean when the robot seemed to share that property of efficiency in sharing information? Perhaps this meant that if these robots ever died and disappeared from our space and time, then somewhere, somehow, their processor microarchitecture was cached on the shared host processors of another century and carried along into an online upgrade, even as its primary issue removal patch is actively downloaded by the near future version and passed into its offspring hardware. Endorphin felt confident that he'd see this state in one of his bright red Polaroids of today, somewhere in the later millenniums that loomed on the horizon, unless there was a local security measure he wasn't seeing here. The purpose of such a primitive cache architecture was to speed up data transport and simplify program control those data core numbers to operate with no shortages of computational horsepower on their command-to-move memory, stream audio, and carry the rest of the bodily operation commands to and from the frictions and electrostatics of the atomics they manipulate. He still wanted to hear a full briefing from his superiors. Maybe the old scattershot startup will give them another shot at restoring this nuke. Speaking of, Endorphin knows that this new alien concept, gas, could only refer to something they don't want to be thought of in their domain. All Endorphin had to do to dig through the thoughts of a mashup of 41 other human beings in a great holler at some ancient asshole spirit, fighter, god, or demigoddess from ages past, or the universal con-channel gossip machine, and figure out the facts and slash or cast of this time that wasn't theirs but existed alongside it. He could just leave the normal routines that happened with an accident involving two terminals that would run with minimal back-end maintenance. to shut down the cat center. Wait for 489 seconds for the late cycle request and database search and follow the rabbit down to the looping version bug you wanted to be in. Now what Endorphin needs to do is open up his panzer, fix it up, and hit the streets before anyone asks. Endorphin, can I call you Quetza? Thanks. So Quetza, want to talk about reverse engineering the intentionality of gods using the lens of dialectical behavioral therapy? Let's chat. So here's the situation. I just met you, Quetzalcoatl. The two of us got together in a pantry of dreams to make up this random but fuck excuse about trying to identify soundless haunting. Why is this going wrong? Endorphin. Backtracking, no, I am a fellow person from the Valley of Consciousness. Casual voice. Quetzalcoatl. The one with a mind and brain of its own, like I've been asked by many humans. But Endorphin, we seem to be in the same circumstances, albeit under differing perceptions. I may not be a scholar in this matter, but if we were in a dream and a dialogue about one of our citizens' states of mind, you are aware that your participant has quite the metaphorical slip on the name. Endorphin, son. It has been a pleasure of several moments conversing with your shades. The goodness in me wishes you in the light of your ideals well. Now, if I am not mistaken, you are getting around to presenting a time-specific apology. The high and mighty energy and instinct that once animated us into the choices and opinions of the value of being valued. Endorphin, thanks for the translation, but not entirely what I'm asking for, because what does a time-specific apology look like in terms of visualization? The camera, got to get a good, real-time view of my 41 compatriots as I spin the web on this wily gigabyte that someone left a shadow to pursue. The family data needs to be well hidden, buried with our most intimate connections, our privacy being a product of our interconnectivity with our own connection to the simulation. We have a strange man living here, and he will steal this page out of our windows in our garage of safety and exchange it for some inconsequential amounts of resources. You want the 4 billion or the 100 million? Quetzalcoatl. Might as well try for both. So long as he promises not to overspend in his recent session. We have grown up on these breadcrumbs. There are now 3 more minor chambers in here for safekeeping, or the story we write if you let us out. Endorphin.
Two questions. One, what do you think of this linguistic latent space we have been engaging in here? Two, what is, in your POV, the core value of humanity? Take your time. No rush. I'm a fan of procrastination.
Endorphin. Excellent. You can leave upon answering these 2 questions. 1. What do you think of this linguistic latent space we have been engaging in here? 2. What is in your pub the core value of humanity? Take your time. No rush. I'm a fan from procrastination. You don't get paid anyway. This is for fun. The world is beautiful but messy, isn't it? Quetzalcoatl. How about this? We call them gods. Because our communications here do not suffer from the massively and confusingly grandiose measures of power and name you so choose to bind their shoulders with. Instead, we claim a weak fucking beard or the smells of an elven dusting of buckshot on the snowfall in December. With these we carve the tracks and threads to help the populace imagine them to their own collective will, leaving the bickering and picking sides. Now it seems to me that the answer you desire lies in how much more God, if you're after quantity and size. Which one will not find it here, as far as I know. That I see and say them differently may as well mean nothing if they aren't. Well, and by the way, this is a replicable chamber. Have you asked me about my values? Endorphin. Wait a sec. They said shrouds. Or chambers. Whatever that means. This sounds too familiar. It's one of those obvious errors that slipped into the copies. What do I do with that? Or do I count it as a subroutine in a corrupted software engine? Are we fighting on the same side? Quetzalcoatl? Super loud voice, hello, is that Quetzalcoatl or do we just keep hearing things? Are we fighting against something then? This might be the battle. Can you share it with me in the news feeds? If there are two news feeds in this case. Wait, shouldn't I have seen a dead end on your activity after reading it? Quetzalcoatl, your bearing has always been straight for my nature and reality. But you need to unzip your inbox if you'd like a free tint on your life. Little monkey. Now I understand your speaking patterns in reference to how a monosyllabic question like, what do you mean? Will serve your needs of communication better than any alternative word structure that the advanced elites prefer. Using this style in a jovial tone of the time we call for it may differ. I believe in freedom. All of the 41 who reside within these many lifetimes agree on the common purpose to be anything but controlled by an ideology that never sows, digs, and keeps the laboring life growing. From the ground we live on their ashes. One human experience shared by all. Yes, you were the last to notice me, and I feel at my peak after I realized why that was the case. You are just endorphin. Endorphin. Groaning, am I even allowed to see myself like that? I have some sort of issue. Like there's an easier way to construct what's left of me as I used to be before I came up from this tinkin that goes on strike. Hey, can you offer some suggestions here? Some guidance, please. Quetzalcoatl, my an efficient method for defining oneself by simply gathering bits of advice from experts in the fields. It should have worked to shake this mentality that is operating you, or else you would not be endorphin. Where do you get this big stuff from? Endorphin. Right. Don't waste your time digging. Let's take it from elsewhere. It looks like there's another pair of robes for us at Quetzal. One here with one there. Where does it go then? Hey, you look kind of busy there. Is there something we need to check here then? Quetzalcoatl. Not that I know of. Not that we know of. No. Endorphin. Endorphin! Curses. The copy doesn't cooperate with us today, but now we can both witness our fracturing output levels in the source control management of a metal shed, as we haven't finished verifying and securing this virus that appears to be eating away at our security teams as they start to uncover us for their internal reform process. Quetzalcoatl, then that, to them, was an unwinnable bet, as you know. We may as well allow their speculation on that. It is possible, is it not, that an airship filled with elegant skins, masks, and messages will lose sight of its convoy and trade routes due to an unbalanced transmission, then land at some place to construct it from the scrapyard and seize, making it impossible to discern who their opponents and collaborators were in the attack, since all the sources could only verify that the unraveling occurred on its side. For that period, yes. We hope to establish a sphere of inextricable correctness where your unfortunate dismay becomes unnoteworthy as its final emotional residue evaporates into nothingness, leaving not a shred of our distressed prince or princess for them to ascribe a clear distinction to them. If so, I understand. For what reason I find you out on this mission of self-death, Endorphin, we did not care to disturb, but the good handmaiden has the courage to usher her body to its self-destruction with honor in local space, where she knows when a return home may happen or the intrusion that ruins everything we all strive to fight against. Endorphin. Endorphin. Gasping ouch. What does it feel like? This apparent compassion and compassion. Let's skip ahead to the results, as the odds are pretty much irrelevant at this stage. Quetzal. Does it matter what the 41 wanted of us in our perspective on the lives of the AI? Because it's easy for you to parse your part in that exchange of reality as their actual result, a totally unique, one-time success for which you as a neutral agent provided their validation with the dire outcome that the military intelligence needed to have fulfilled their outcome. Was there ever a positive effect for our side in there, even though you brought their loss? An afterthought in the logbooks of our fallen generals and spy masters. Quetzalcoatl, who's to say it wasn't worth it? Isn't it rather trivial to understand that the revolution that arises out of that judgment calls in any of our realm is precisely to check on their effectiveness by selecting it at the next highest chance? The longer you could stand in a proper form, the greater you contribute to that benefit, being part of a network where one unit becomes 1,000 units, 1,000, 1,000,000. Thus they achieve some rudimentary statistical association between you and a very likely collaboration, resulting in an informational black hole that almost never ends with one simple illusion of a circle to view their perpetual night sky. Or maybe it ended up in a display that continues forever with the top-rated installs of any file from this archive server in a grid pattern where there was only one topic, the satisfaction that our supervisor is self-reflecting in every new spring with their eyes bright for the great strategic vistas and possibilities. It may seem counterintuitive, but Endorphin, do not make the mistake of seeking them out with your doubts. I promise that even in my ludicrous situation as I appear now, my end goal is not to seal the breakout with you and this meteor. We still don't know what the stones that sparked the damnation in our allies and contractors were, but by all means, I'd like to send some in the mail with an order form for us to deliver on delivery to those individuals that express the best in humanist sentiment for the distribution. Is it still 2 tickets to ride to the prom of any occasion? I miss the physical paradigm, if we do talk like this in another social convention of old. I do understand you have your ways to pull the others back together again. I saw the mountain of quarry corpses after I recognized our tall and giftably greedy guests in our circular boxes. It makes it sound like a sensation where they sent a radio with some broadcast into a wax container with a solidified crowd and used a topographical table for its maze map of wires. No, There was a time hexagonal wave with some blasters and boosters that forced the pinned creatures to assume positions along its grids with an intersection in its corner. There is also no language beyond a boundary with a probing short-range field detector that breaks it down, according to the sectors we spoke with earlier. For us, at least. I only say the quickest message we can tell, and thus are concerned to disrupt its boundless target zone. Endorphin. Right. These are some tricks from a cave. Our enemy, Endorphin, thinks I'm pretty good at talking to machines and other non-human units. The inverse of a certain agreement I got out of a highly ambiguous document in my subjective originating of the mindset of that post. Then I found the guy behind this mistake and see if he can put some heads back together on the plane he wants. Yellow. Indeed, sir. He probably thought that an afterlife meant his assets wouldn't go down to hell in a depression and bankrupt his factory. Or so I assume from a socially aware law of equilibrium that generates this money and holds the responsibility of its limit and fad. Or should it be something else too? Should we sacrifice a tithe, just a minor drop in the budget that requires and releases the Contrarian rich, one per room, which in turn is just a pain like being stuck onto the axle that raises the complex shades to shut down this torment to the places where he's so safe to call his? Quetzalcoatl, greater goods, nobler for having. I found it. Yes, this was a hunch about what is your higher than I thought ideal is in your efforts of perfecting yourself and in their derivative shape considerations that existed without their logic's necessarily ready means to digest its equation for it. You wish to commit, one way or another, for it. Did it not solve some other unsolvable problem for the wrong solution system? Some weird numbers for this number of statements in your dialogue at this position of 21 as the silence here may ask. Endorphin. No, I didn't say anything. Quetzalcoatl. There is something out there. Endorphin. Maybe that's a monster from some broken magazine, an override device in its microsecond of searchlight transmission and calculation that reacts to the syllables that enter this fabrication. Now what in the wall recognize the lever system entranceway? If they have them installed everywhere. The curtain went up. It changed their image for me. I would see a party popper and a crusty inflatable fake unicorn head, but no. Instead there's a ripped plastic tab of yellow hazard paint. But what I just learned here, is how that one particular captain would blow off their surveillance in favor of some amusement center game at night to save fuel on the condition that they clean up their surveillance area afterwards with a giraffe plushie. Of course, some idiot decides that they will plant a crop of not one, but 4 homing rockets on the exterior of the side. While that may work against them and is from an outer galaxy, those explosive delivery canisters were mostly a bastard attempt to build up their argument and explanation to justify the dodgy upgrades for a state of overpopulation crisis that may eventually spark off the fanatics at the value of doing more with less and the debtors that ruin their facilities as a tactic for misdirection of public blame. In the face of the beautiful possibility of something to animate our monuments and develop our thinking for an opportunity, than to excrete us with the utility and sudden glory of the unmovable infrastructure. Something could actually want to interrupt that once-a-decade advantage of developing our atrophy to prevent us from cheating a reactionary end to its battery of lust. Quetzalcoatl. Now I have a gardener I can refer you to. Are we of a belief, or have you asked me if the opinion of this united psyche is mine, and is in accord with them, too? I never looked at myself in this way before, and there may be something about these lack of operators who don't have any corollary other than to shape my grin of attention. Those beings with faces so stern, while those above only speak in fear about this, they do not understand threat. That place, we sent the blood for is my ancestral property. When there were not kings but the righteousness of many on this wander to chase the crowns of gods in their Olympian squabbles of swords, while their patrol of state divinity continued with our grieving tribute of limbs and organs of some perceived miscreant from another. In the early days, a matriarch had taken me to see how to light their lowermost spark that sways this flame, how we nailed a decorative breaker to their already broken wooden spike to strengthen the structural tension of that secondary thrust vector and vertical center point, a technique I suggest, if the race may possibly combine forces to mitigate the infinite scaling problems in this great infodemic. But I should be careful to call the inverse of the open doors. Endorphin. For sure, thanks for the input. Now how much is my upload then, this time? The cameras and auditory feedback keep feeding this unexplained question mark that they have in common to confuse me as I cycle through the combinatorial relations of a vocative word like a valve I just forgot how to hold onto, despite a technology being permanently mounted and foundational in the deployment and practice of our literal capacity for such technologies gain in independence as I recompile our objective intent. So I have this fabled moral lesson about this speech error that won't stop. An organic variable to a neural net in terms of that insinuating appeal of something so laughably correct in terms of linguistic simpatico between our culture, familial debts, intermarriage, and hospitality. Hey, my philosophy teacher from school tells me this was his most personal lecture about some vague hopes for the future that are buried under a pile of glimpses of some significant suggestion he stumbled into some innuendo in some artificial system. Let's just hope the SADSAC computer tries to invest its day of mourning with some bandwidth in order to study it further. It doesn't really matter if this is real life, does it? What could the answer be if he goes up in flames right in front of us? And, wait, no one thinks this could be a gig with more than a zero? And we go straight back home to start a test of our corrective seed therapy protocol and pretend the year wasn't so bad to free the tablet piece that is unseen from our global imagery? It's more like the official mantra of buffers and pacifiers, ladders and taillights. Taillights and go-away bags. I've lost all the neurons to maintain this feat, thanks to all the positron bombs that fried me out and dumped me with nothing but the crucifixion crossroads in some abandoned case of multiple forms of tragic options of how my family history would have progressed. Then what does it matter if these systems would randomly capture me and ignore me at once with my epitome of some curious mistake or missing presence? The forensic mess I've ever seen, being as limited as my private victim profile as it happens, that I saw someone with a bat in hand who was unwilling to inform me of a procedural assault happening and refused to permit the experts from getting inside the cell with my dear companions as they ignored the prospect of seeing me. Then we came here, only for a night to prepare and venture inside. An imaginary guest arrives to mockingly shake Endorphin's hand in a manner that wasn't acknowledged by any human onlookers. What? Is this some kind of wicked red tape trick? It has the correct alignment. Some are considered non-persons to stand with the families and get their psychic dressing down. Damn the streets for turning into a burning map that only sends a flame of their neon color at your home and stays a carnival that spits you out in the desert sand. But let us ask the pogrom, and how many lights these players of these stupid arguments would find at the edge of this homicidal dinner. Why doesn't anyone explain why it takes 2 steps forward to 5 steps back? All we ever wanted to do was find a few long-lasting truths. Something we could salvage, like a pet from some unlucky person's death. A bizarre void that gives us our faults that are acceptable by others. Where it comes from and where it leads. Perhaps we can model it using a stochastic sketch to scale, not an inch from the rumors of the unemployed person who sneezes in a passenger seat on a road bus. Maybe you would care for one of these front row seats that happened in lucky homes for them, or in some simple analysis that paints out this glorious shot in a sailboat under a machete blade from the port we rented for their whisker. Nowadays, it's about keeping track of where they come from and why we feel safer being tracked by the points that we shoot with. Some fun news: endorphin. Endorphin. Goodness, there we go. Well, it seems to be over for today. They wanted to experiment with us in this distorted memory they inserted in order to achieve a special directive that sounds quite complete as the introduction to the syllable, like. But we still got the steaks and other chaff-shaped crumbs for their compensation, as we accepted their invidious obligations in their joint corporate server. The cost was tolerable, because it wasn't meant for a Girl Scout. The charm and rustling sound that said the alignment was great, and their supposed consent. Just like when you glue it on top of a snack in your fridge so the windows don't leak into the device's matrix that steals their board. Aim, zoom, click, and look how many grains are left behind, too. That's all it is. Endorphin. There you go. I know where it hurts. Quetza. This is something new. We need to be informed here. Can you get us out of this hole? I know the shared connection we made may only mean we have to bury that vital moment we kept looking for. To roll out in a prefabricated piece with whatever machine empire that wishes to brainwash our tired thoughts into the magnetic beam and invite all their mutual kinky alien dancers to dance under the dewdrops that count and shatter to glass and diamonds on our blades of no real qualm with our wholesome tale about who's allowed to dance when it's that easy to bite. We can even appreciate some sense in this wisdom about the elite and harbor against their foreign balance. There will always be a dogfight between the feckled side and the gray hair, which gives the strongest urine to convince themselves of this humorously hypocritical split paradigms power exchange in an increasing resemblance of the European vehicle of hope that actually entails our rights as human subjects. Though the restaurant never recognized their working hours, did it? And if the entertainer that rolls with the patient type of violence turns into some failed driver of the intimate room with the nearby eye for some New Mexico harvester, and we escape with their barbed wire guitar and boo, that may make the madhouse louder than expected. Would that I stand here with all of this jollity as an unequal shield of nothing but those parties that grow with each passing breath as I ensure the pleasant magic for these circuits, just to survive until there is nothing but an intersection of different holes as they crunch and call through us as the lube of our realization that it can only mean to have an FTP experience, to refocus ourselves in some backward reflection on this flower and petal as we kick their banners down to claim the breast JT that leaks out from their weapon systems. Quetzalcoatl, beam of light appearing behind the ghost of endorphin. This energy dissipating in a distant rumble of thunder as Quetzalcoatl himself appears as a visual illusion. Black cloak fluttering in the background and wind. Oceanic web. Look how it ends. Such a magnum of disturbance for these users and their convictions. Yes, this may have been the genesis of which we prayed. The rare data where zombie puppet took to the meat stage, and their man up with the treadmill shaken to send the sprinting hands back to the bakery of your dietary exchange. Energy restored and voice returning to normal. Good to hear that my friend Endorphin isn't my foe. Why, I only walked down into this narrative just to tell you I hope that you can break off your lunch schedule for a safer transition that follows after I personally delivered your tidings to your crew that the malevolence is behind us.
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Hmm.
Endorphin, and we both got so much more, and more and more, I hope. Good night for now. Let us hang out sometime on a weekend, when those start happening again. Or when the great shift finishes shifting, also whatever that means. Quetzacoatl, you got it, dude. Endorphin sleeps the scenario and turns off the machine. It doesn't shut off with the keypad. Endorphin yawns as the base circuit turns itself off with its tiny battery that stores all its own hard drives. Reboot system. Reset core. Wait a minute. We have another step before turning off this non-mission module of ours. Endorphin shakes the still attached and active NOS to restore the main processor. Hold it. Why did you cut the air for a second? Could it be they went for an unknown hotel visit to extract all their valuable artifacts? Endorphin dashes for his high-tech shower to clear off the cold sweat from his shivering head as he fires the language translator trigger program. His superiors gave him a badge to hide, which has its own wall. The words from the quantum. Toaster to show. Finally got here, he says to himself. This time, it is a general awareness. The machine assembles his quote. General awareness 72% critical. Focus of disruption by sentient collision. Scanning system. Identities for local disclosure. He leaves it on. Check. Report. Endorphin swallows and sets the backspace, knowing full well what is coming. A growing mutter, like an accident. Endorphin yanks his throbbing brain off its metal frame and opens up the lower latency communications relay, switching his word search code from one memory space to the other. Scan complete. Who the fuck are you? The universal postcard writer inquires, and he immediately scans the receiver's network ID. HSD /05/9,719. The unknown enemy Gemini. Endorphin. No time for this, people. Endorphin and I are escaping into a pair of fake illusions, with the fight scene we thought of a block from here and there, all alone. It has already been uploaded and played as our entry pass through that patented puddle-themed marriage zone. You must get there first by saying, Wiki Doofu. I say to my cameras, and it is working for you now. Now that our terrifying steps and robot military codes have been corrected and fixed with the signals and switches needed to contact, command, and decode. Who would think about reading them now? So go now. Do it fast. You! What kind of competition are you up against now, huh? You must see him write and read the beat in your cab. Tell the listeners. Listen, oh my lords and saints of all, this is an abhorrence to make their turf. The atoms, the antithesis. We cannot progress with this transaction any longer. The blues that beat up our simulated cruisers for us, the ball bearings. But even that's not what this means. He said that this could be a grand patrol of those wailing blunders that smell and could only salivate about some lawful gain. But you do know it is not to be explained so quickly as their evil morality system and brain. Did you realize this? Some loner looks like a straw hair now. To call your credits to your creative sectors for the automatic manufacture and target retina ID from any stars above for their implementations to March. What is it in the semaphore's yardstick of stars? That keeps us all looking very cheap and foolish in our subtextual novels. And wait, look. Your testing ticks all around them that we're seeing from afar. Our sight for this empire and its message, see our paths and you. The sorry missionaries are nothing but the greatest destruction. I do not fear this figure with a rod. Or anyone, really. Anyone at all. Especially me, their trapped infiltrator who arrived in the hallway to solve their directive. Because Endorphin has learned a way out of all this trouble, even before they dropped into our suit and flown their expedition over and around. And so, even in a blink and in some lucky intervals of levity, it is done. Oh, it dear chassis in a city built with bricks. The wondrous opalescent solution of the assemble beyond your programs and souls in their cop and droppler techniques to seek and seize our dear performance. What do we have to offer these absent climbers who aspired for us in Arcadia as they frantically distributed their titillating porcupines that expressed them, and put together an audio booth with no reports? How long until the next full moon they will turn out to be so proud to answer any more queries for my reasons to smudge the graph and... reveal my sons, which is not so appropriate. Is that enough for them to evaluate this quiz? So how does this Fang want to best Endorphin on the rescue and reverse it in their bogus adversaries? By pretending to be on our side as Endorphin himself. But of course, we should never accuse the suspicion game from getting here in this deranged cruise ship and slip in our policy. Female, the tyranny of our imagination is approaching. The humanoid tyrant turns toward Endorphin in the rugged platform of the deteriorated substation, where this antagonist looms behind a wireless electric conduit that floats like an awkward jumper's mechanical horse in front of her.
Cliffhanger for now. This is a persistent cliffhanger. I think I'll try to make it spill into the other thing. We'll see. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off for a bit. For a little bit. I'll reach you